We have not asked for this. There was never any agreement to take on the job of supporting thousands of asylum seekers. This responsibility was simply handed to us without warning as buses began showing up. There's no playbook for this, no precedent. New Yorkers are angry. I am angry too. We have not asked for this.
Angry.
There was
at
never
asylum
any
seekers.
agreement to take on the job.
Asylum seekers seeking asylum in New York. Let me just go through all of the hypocritical, in-your-face points of view. We're angry.
New Yorkers are angry.
New Yorkers are angry. Why are New Yorkers angry? Please tell Mayor Adams.
I am angry too.
Oh, yeah. Why?
We have not asked for this.
We have not asked for this. Okay. Did Texas ask for it? Arizona ask for it? Florida ask for it? Oh, you haven't asked for it. And you think because of your geographical benefit of not being on a border, you therefore don't have to deal with what you impose and expect other states to deal with, even though they didn't ask for it either? Sorry.
There was never any agreement to take on the job of supporting thousands of asylum seekers.
Awesome. Now do Arizona, Texas, other border states, border towns. No, never any agreement. Martha's Vineyard never asked for it. Martha's Vineyard never agreed to take on asylum seekers. That's for border towns. They never agreed to it. The border towns, they never agreed to it either, but they got no choice because of their geographic locations, you see?
This responsibility was simply handed to us without warning as buses began showing up.
Awesome. Now do the thousands of people crossing the border illegally into border states, into border towns. The hypocrisy, it's so egregious, you have to think no one is that dishonest. No one is that much of a liar. No one is that so lacking self-reflection that they would get up on a podium and say, we didn't ask for this. How dare you bus these people to New York? That's for Texas. That's for Arizona. That's for the people living on the Rio Grande. Without warning. Yeah. Without warning. Where was it? Here. Boom. Without warning. Oh, sorry. Texas, they've had warning. They've had warning. They know they're on the border, so they have to deal with it, even though they never asked for it. They have to accommodate all of these people, even though they never asked for it. It wasn't thrust on them. It was just relegated to them. Unbelievable. And this is after, by the way, this is after saying, we're the humanitarians here. Deliver Martha's Vineyard to us, and we'll accommodate. But New York's got its own problems. It's got crime. It's got homelessness. It's got its own problems. It can't accommodate this. Martha's Vineyard got its own problems. They've got a housing crisis in Martha's Vineyard. They didn't ask for that. California's got its own problems. They've already got a homeless crisis out there. They can't handle them. Not in my backyard. Not in my downtown. Not in my state. NIMS. NIMS. Not in my state. Good evening, people. How goes the battle? Barnes will be here shortly. I'm not done ranting, by the way. We're going to talk about Kanye West's tweet. I went for I'm not even going to get into it just yet. Standard disclaimers. No medical advice, no election advice, fornication advice, no legal advice. We will be moving over to Rumble. Not so that we can do things that we can't do here on YouTube, so that we can maybe have an open discussion, but I'm going to post the stream to YouTube tomorrow. We're going to go to Rumble because Rumble supports free speech in a meaningful sense. We're going to prioritize the streams on Rumble because they are a platform that is walking the talk and talking the walk. Wow, did I just pulled a George W., didn't I? They are walking the walk and talking the talk. Reaching out to Kanye to see if he can be the chief creative officer. So we'll be moving over to Rumble shortly. Let me just make sure that we are, in fact, live on Rumble. We look like we're live. Chat seems to be going active. The cleaner is a turd robber. Cleaner is a turd robber. I don't get it, but Winston Shittenhouse, is that Winston right there? That dog looks so much like Winston when he had long hair. The sanctuary cities are in no position to provide sanctuary. Bucklebrush Jones, well played, sir. Rumble rants and YouTube super chats. YouTube takes 30% of all that. If you don't want to support YouTube, but you want to support us, Rumble. They have a thing called Rumble Rants. They only take 20%. So you support a good platform, you support creators that you like. We're not done with the intro, people. We're not done with the rant. Kanye West. I wake up. I'm not big on Instagram. I have not been able to access my Facebook account since I moved to Florida because the verification code that it keeps texting me is going to my old cell number, which I don't have anymore. So I can't even access my own Facebook account. But my goodness, that is not of any significant loss to my psychological and spiritual well-being. So I'm not on Facebook, and I haven't been on Facebook in 4 months. Not really on Instagram. So I didn't see what Ye or Kanye messaged, Instagram posted, what he posted on social media on Instagram that got him yeeted from Instagram. I'm on Twitter today, and I see Cenk Uygur saying that Kanye declared a war on the Jews. Now, I read that. Kanye declares war. And I think the declares war was in quotes. Kanye West declared war on the Jewish people, is I think how it was phrased. And I'm like, okay, something doesn't make sense here. Would Kanye West declare war on, let's just say, a good portion of the family of the man that he is now vocally supporting and taking heat for supporting? Or maybe does he blame everything that is going on the Jewish side of Donald Trump's family? I don't know. I hear it, and I start to say, okay, maybe Kanye West did declare war on the Jewish people. So I went to find the impugned post that got him yeeted from Instagram. And we're going to read it, people. We're going to read it and see if this gets yeeted from the YouTubes. Kanye West, who last week wore the White Lives Matter shirt with Candace Owens, almost broke the internet. And everyone accusing me now of simping for Kanye. I said, yeah, that's a deliberately provocative shirt. I understand the point he's trying to make, but I would not, if I'm trying to make that point, prioritize any one race, religion, or ethnicity. I would have gone with an All Lives Matter shirt. I understand what Kanye's doing. A black man wearing a White Lives Matter shirt with a black woman, Candace Owens, as a big middle finger to the BLM movement, which people are now starting to truly appreciate, is somewhat corrupt. It's not necessarily living up to its name or its purported raison d'être. So last week he wears the White Lives Matter shirt. And I said, okay, provocative. I wouldn't do it. I think it would have been better off with a All Lives Matter shirt. But I'm not Kanye. For good and for bad, I'm not Kanye. But that was my position on that. Somewhat critical. Some people want to push the envelope, push the limits, and understandably so. You don't rock the boat by not moving, so to speak. It's a stupid expression. Anyhow, so that's the backdrop of the context. I go to get Kanye's Instagram post. I just took it off the screen here because I'm an idiot. And I read it. And I want to say, I'm going to read it to you. I'm going to read it to everybody here. This is Kanye. I don't have the date of this, but it was a couple of days ago. I'm a bit sleepy tonight, but when I wake up, I'm going DEFCON 3 on Jewish people. The funny thing is, I actually can't be anti-Semitic because black people are actually Jew also. You guys have toyed with me and tried to blackball anyone who ever opposes your agenda. Okay. It's not clear what he means by this tweet. But it's interesting. Now, this is what it drives me nuts. I went for a jog and I'm trying to think of an analogy for what it's like to try to have a nuanced, thoughtful discussion on Twitter. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm jogging. I got a gnat in my eye while I was jogging, which really annoyed me. But I'm just sitting thinking, trying to have a nuanced, sincere exchange on Twitter. It's like trying to use a wasp nest as a pillow. It's like trying to skinny dip in piranha-infested waters. It's like trying to brush the hair of a polar bear. I can't think of a good analogy. It's like trying to have a discussion with a child thinking the child is going to understand. It's frustrating. It's like trying to thread a needle with a dry, frayed piece of yarn. You think it's possible. Conceptually it is. But 2 hours later, you've realized that you've wasted your afternoon and you've got horrible blisters on your fingers for the attempt. We don't need to agree or disagree with Kanye's tweet per se. I disagree with the tweet in its essence. The question is, disagreeing or agreeing with the tweet is one discussion. Before you can even get there, you got to understand what the tweet means. And so I want to understand, what did Kanye mean by this tweet? Is this tweet an open call for war on Jewish people? I didn't know what DEFCON or DEFCON 3 is anyhow, but a defense command. So it's like getting ready to go to war. Did Kanye West, a man who publicly supports Trump's family, for those of you who don't know, I believe his daughter converted to Judaism. His son-in-law is Jewish. His grandkids are Jewish. Is he declaring war on the family of the man that he is publicly supporting and publicly taking heat for supporting? Probably not. It's not a question of wordsmithing, not a question of simping, as some people say, not a question of defending Ye because he's a member of the tribe. Someone accused me of defending Kanye because he's a member of the tribe. And I said, you're accusing me of defending someone for an arguably anti-Semitic tweet on the basis that he's a member of the tribe? The first question is, what does he mean by the tweet? Is it an open declaration of war on Jewish people, or is it possibly, arguably, potentially a stupid tweet that should have stayed in his draft box, but an attempt at a joke, an attempt at being edgy yet again? People are saying, how much clearer does it have to get? Viva, you idiot, simp for Kanye West. Shame on you. You're a disgrace to your community. He said, I'm going DEFCON 3 on Jewish people. How much clearer does it have to get? Well, there's a part of construction of statutes, interpretation of laws. You have to read things together. They say the legislator doesn't speak not to say anything. In French, it's le législateur ne parle pas pour ne rien dire. Lawmakers don't speak to say nothing. So if they say something, you have to read something into it. There are two ways to misread something. You can read something into it that's not there, or you can read out of it something that is there. And so he says, I'm going DEFCON on Jewish people. The funny thing is, I can't be anti-Semitic, yada, yada. You guys have toyed with me and tried to blackball anyone who opposes your agenda. Who's he talking about here? Is he talking about Jews at large? Is Kanye West talking about me here? Have I tried to blackball Kanye West? No, and I don't think he's talking about me. Call me a Kanye simp, a Kanye apologist, even though I still think the tweet is stupid, dumb, and he shouldn't have done it. He just gave the big middle finger to BLM last week. And now, if you read the second part or the last part of this message before the first, you guys have toyed with me and tried to blackball anyone who opposes your agenda. To me, it sounds like he's talking about censorship of sorts. Knowing that he just went, I don't know, do we say DEFCON? Knowing that he just flipped the bird to BLM. He went after the black movement. Part of me thinks he's talking about Wojcicki, YouTube, Zuckerberg, Facebook. And what he's saying now is, I went after BLM last week. Now I'm going after Jewish people. First, I went after the black people. Now I'm going after the Jewish people. You guys tried to blackball anyone who opposes your agenda. Sounds like censorship. That's how I read it. Still stupid. Still going to be exactly the fodder that anybody needs to say Kanye West is an anti-Semite. Kanye West, or they're going to say Kanye West is just he's in an episode now because he's openly manic bipolar, and there are episodes to that. They're going to say he's manic bipolar, he's out of his mind, don't listen to him. Or they're going to say he's an enemy, he's an anti-Semite, yeet him some more. This also illustrates part of the reason why some people are reluctant to come out and talk about mental issues, because it becomes a reflexive way of discrediting them in the future, but set that aside. To me, it's quite clear what he's doing. He says, first I went after Black Lives Matter. Now I'm going after people who are Jewish people. Watch what happens. That's what I think. And the media, I think, pretends not to understand that. They pretend to read, I'm going after Jewish people, in abstractum, as though he didn't say in the last part of that message, you've tried to censor me, blackball me, etc. They can now legitimately pretend not to get the joke and just paint him as an anti-Semite. But you try to have a rational discussion and then try to understand what someone meant, even if you're ultimately going to disagree with it one way or the other. It's just going to be a question of degrees. And you just can't do it on Twitter. And you end up pulling out your hair. You end up wasting your time trying to respond to responses that you think are authentic, and they're not trying to have honest discussion. But that's it. What did Kanye West mean? Did he mean war on the Jewish people writ large, or did he mean I went after the Black Lives Matter last week, and tomorrow I'm going after Zuckerberg, Wojcicki, and Jewish people, and we'll see what happens. They tried to blackball me, and what did they do after that Instagram post? Zuckerberg yeeted yay from Instagram. Zuck yeeted yay. And then you got Michael. I'm going to leave on this. I can't stand Rappaport. First of all, I never knew Rappaport was Jewish. In my life, I didn't know Michael Rappaport was Jewish. I'm not playing this because this is the type of SHIT that will get a video yeeted from YouTube. Didn't know Michael Rappaport was Jewish, but he plays the card when he wants to call other people's names. What did he say here? I'm up going DEFCON 6 million at Kanye West. And then he goes into a diatribe against Kanye West, accusing him of intolerance, told him to go take a shower. Interpret that the way you want. I just had to pull out an old tweet from Michael Rappaport. Seeing a lot of Jew hating floating around in the US and abroad. I'm not reading this. There are words that I hate. This is one of them. I hate, can we see that? Yeah, I hate this word. I hate it. I hate it when non-Jewish people use it because they use it thinking it's not as offensive as I find it. And I hate it when Jewish people use it. I never knew Rappaport was Jewish, but spoiler alert, Rappaport, if you want to dispel anti-Semitic beliefs, don't go around calling non-Jews, what did he say? Dumb, goyim, goat breath, FUKCS. Okay. Robert is in the background. And he's been very patient with this rant. There's no shame in trying to understand people, understand what they meant, and then you can get mad at them. We only support illegal immigrants in regions that don't win elections so we can all sell them citizenship votes for votes. We don't need them where we do win. Interesting take. Nope, hell nope. You don't even show up on the front page of Rumble. I have to go to my subscriptions. Go to Twitter and tweet out that we're live, and then that might trigger something. I don't know. Okay, whatever. I'm not angry. We're good. The crowd will come, people. And we got emotions should never dictate truth. Agreed. Oh God, I got something in my eye. All right, Barnes is in the backdrop. Let's do this. We got a good show tonight. It's going to be fantastic, and we're going to go to DEFCON 3. I don't know what DEFCON 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't know what it is, but okay, good. We're up to 8,000 people on Rumbles. Robert, coming in hot, sir. How are you doing tonight?
Good.
Where you're back home? I can see.
Yes. Back a week of travel, but back in Vegas.
And we're going to talk about why you're in Connecticut and some important stuff. But before we do that, Robert, and before I forget, what do you got behind your shoulder and what do you got in your fingers?
Great book by Kevin Phillips, 1775, Good Year for Revolution, talking about really good political history about that. We're also reviewing his book this month, The Emerging Republican Majority, at vivabarneslaw.locals.com, usually on Fridays when time avails. But the 1775, great book. This is a La Gloria Cubana, Steli, good cigar from Central America. And yeah, we definitely do have a busy docket. We have a case a lot of people aren't talking about, but should be, which was the number one chosen topic on our locals board, which is the Humboldt County property seizures that are going on in a very dangerous mechanism of confiscating property on bogus grounds. That's the lead case to be discussed. There's extraordinary government malfeasance and misconduct in the Brooke Jackson Pfizer whistleblower case. There's the continued political weaponization of financial services that we exposed last week on PayPal that got actual results by the end of the week after others picked up the story that we covered and broke on Law for the People. We have, but it's also happening by places like U.S. Bank, They have a whole division, a community development corporation that is politically weaponizing its tools and its means to go after people, including very successful real estate developers that are trying to make a difference and challenge it. We have the Waukesha Parade defendant going pro se. That FBI agent case we talked about last week that nobody could believe was true. So I sent them the media articles that acknowledged it was true, but most of the media still didn't cover it. Not like they've covered the show trial of Alex Jones pretending it's a real one. But the FBI agent was convicted. The Uber executive involved in covering up hacked materials was also convicted. We have the vaccine passport, the Florida vaccine passport, as we predicted, was in fact upheld when it got to the 11th Circuit over a lot of whining by a lefty judge, but a 2-1 decision, ultimately great decision, very well thought out, thought through decision. Trump is taking his cases up to the Supreme Court. His arguments are getting much better as he moves up. Voting rights at the Supreme Court, big tech, big decision they took this week. Big case they took up for a decision this week on Section 230 immunity. Does it apply? What does the aiding and abetting provision of terrorism mean? Which has they took up that case as well, not only in the big tech context, but broader context. We got the Oath Keeper trial. We got the Durham trial. We got Delaware saying mail-in ballots in Biden's home state is illegal. A little bit interesting. We got up in your neck of the woods, Canada, WestJet vaccine mandate lawsuit that's been filed. We got school choice decision affirmed by the West Virginia Supreme Court. We have an autopilot, big class action that a lot of people have been waiting for concerning Tesla.
Yeah.
Well, Elon Musk is apparently going to settle, and now buy Twitter after all. And because he suggested maybe peace was a good idea in Ukraine, Senator Lindsey Graham suggested punishing him by revoking tax credits for electronic vehicles, just because he was willing to have a voice for peace in Ukraine, even though he's otherwise been a supporter of the Ukrainian regime.
And Robert,
we got Nick Rekieta versus YouTube and how the court of public opinion fought back. We got and we got about a half dozen more.
We'll see what we can get to, but let's start with Rekieta because that is, well, first of all, we're going to do that on both YouTube and Rumble for the benefit of YouTube. Haunted Farmer says, Ye is a fool. For what it's worth, I think Rekieta was 100% in the wrong with what he said about Keffels, but YouTube giving a strike for reading names was also wrong. Robert, let's talk about the Rekieta situation. His channel was yeeted and has been since reinstated, but he's still on what appears to be a 2-week suspension because instead of it being the third strike, it's now going back to a second strike. I'm not sure that we know the details as to which of the 4 violations, or which, if it were 1 or 2 of the 4 violations have been removed, because everybody has to appreciate, by the time you get your channel nuked for a 3rd violation, you've gotten 1 warning for violating community guidelines and then 3 strikes. So he was at basically 4. The last 2 of which I think we know now were what he said about Keffels, about the wall, didn't talk about specific anyone being shot, but said, up on walls was the expression. And the last one, by all accounts, seems to have been him saying in a stream, I'm going to go through my complaints, these complaints that were filed against me, 45 of them, because of this clear brigade. I'm redacting the names for YouTube, but part of the grift, go to locals and F everybody. That I think now we know was probably the last strike on the basis of referring people to another platform to do something that you can't do on YouTube. He's back up, which means that 1 of the 4 strikes was probably removed, which got his channel back, but he's still on a penalty for the 2 weeks. What's your take on it, Robert? I mean, there's people out there, there's going to be morality, there's going to be legality, and then there's going to be terms of service. Let's set aside morality. Legality. People are asking whether or not it's not doxing. I don't know what the legal sense is because there's no legal definition of doxing, is there?
No, not really. I mean, there's some statutes that have provisions of it. But, I mean, my general view is that I thought this was coming because of Rekieta's success providing independent coverage of high-profile trials. And I do not think it's a coincidence. I know he's focused and others are focused on a particular individual that's organizing a brigaded effort against him. But my view is it's not coincidental that a lot of this escalated after 2 things. First, escalated after media hit jobs on him after the success of the media coverage of both the Rittenhouse trial and the Johnny Depp trial. which Nick was primarily the leader on. Even though other people were involved in covering those trials, Nick Rekieta popularized it, brought a lot of people to it through the Rittenhouse case, introduced a lot of the audience to the other people who covered those trials, etc. And the media was very unhappy that they could not gatekeep the narrative about trials. They thought, hey, we gave an exclusive to Law and Crime, so we'll let those mediocre hacks over at Law and Crime try to pretend to give consequential legal coverage. I say that as someone who provided free information for Law and Crime and still like their editor, who I think is a wonderful lady, Rachel Stockman, and don't, hate their owner, Dan Abrams, but they become a lefty hack machine with mediocre commentary by mediocre lawyers. That's reality. So people loved the coverage that Nick Rekieta provided in the Rittenhouse trial, exposing the media lies in that case. I admit I have a bias because I represented Kyle Rittenhouse and was obviously cheering for his acquittal, his deserved acquittal. And then the same with the Johnny Depp case, exposing that the media had lied about it in its Me Too movement support and embrace of Amber Heard. I don't think it's a coincidence that the second factor, that all of this escalated by YouTube right when the Alex Jones trials were coming on board. Most of the rest of LawTube was busy hiding under their desk, terrified to cover the Alex Jones trials because they're wusses that keep repeating it, until they can prove me wrong by giving objective coverage of it. But only a little bit of the coverage that took place was negative to Jones. Okay, you're just Law and Crime, second number 2. Good job being junior Law and Crime. Whoop-de-doo. But, if you're going to be meaningful independent commentators, cover one of the most important show trials in the history of America, where they're requesting $8 billion in damages this week in Connecticut. I don't think it was a coincidence that was coming on board, and all of a sudden YouTube is escalating their attacks on Rekieta. So I think these things they're claiming were the reason were pretext. This was to keep Nick Rekieta from covering the Alex Jones trial in substantive detail. And is it really a coincidence that the day before his channel gets struck, he was one of the main LawTubers, other than this channel, covering the details of the press conference of the Alex Jones case that I was at and Alex Jones was at? I don't think it is. Now, the specific pretext, there is no right to privacy in your public address. There's no right to privacy in your name. And if you're dumb enough to file a fraudulent, bogus ethics complaint, you deserve to get outed for the scammer and schemer and fraudster that you are. And that's what these people did. A whole bunch of them filed frivolous, false, fraudulent documents with a government agency. They decided to list their name. They decided to list who they are and where they're from. When you do that, you don't have any right of privacy in that information, nor is it doxing to disclose it. You chose to, first of all, there's no privacy in your address and your name anyway. But putting that aside, there sure as heck ain't when you decide to institute government action against somebody and try to get them fraudulently. This would be like if you swatted somebody. And then you're like, oh, you can't tell the world that I helped swat you. Well, no. I mean, you don't have a privacy interest in your address or name to begin with. This is in the phone book. This is in other places. But you definitely don't in this context.
This is the thing. Okay, the legality of it. I saw Nick on Allison Morrow. The four strikes, or they're called the 4 strikes that he got. One was for repeating something that Joe Biden said about COVID, which he got a strike for. They never removed. So they already set you up for later. The second one was having shown the video and commentated on the stabbing in Australia, the guy who got stabbed in the neck. And I think Andy No first showed that video on Twitter, and it traumatized the living bejesus out of me. So you had those 2. Then come the 2 statements, which, look, it may not be illegal. You might think it's immoral. The only question is, are you not giving good fodder to YouTube to justify? Now that you're at 2 strikes, bull crap they may be, you're in a position now where they've set you up, and I say picked a fight. He clearly was getting brigaded by Keffels and that group. It's clear. I mean, they admitted on social media.
Yeah, it was someone who he had criticized before because they had suggested that they supported providing drugs to children without their parents' consent. I mean, that's what that person was on record saying that. And that's what precipitated that entire controversy. Now, by YouTube's rules, well, YouTube can do anything because its rules are a joke. It allows them to do whatever they want. So that's a crock in that sense. Now, would he have a traditional legal claim? Probably not. It'd be difficult, but he would under Texas law. So he is, I think, Rekieta. I mean, well, all you have to have. I researched the law a little more detail. All you have to have is audience members in Texas, and Nick's got plenty of them. Nick's originally from Texas, and so I think he has some operations in Texas too. So he could have brought a suit against YouTube for reinstatement in violation of the Texas law, because clearly, even the grounds that they were alleging were not. They were clearly viewpoint based. They were based on the content of his speech concerning political speech they don't like, at least in 2 of the 4 instances. And like I said, I think their real motivation was to prevent Rekieta from covering and exposing the degree of fraud in the Alex Jones trial. That joke of a trial.
And he's covering the Rayshard Brooks, where the day after he was yeeted from YouTube, he had 23,000 people watching live on a Friday. Rayshard Brooks, which we're going to talk about later.
On Rumble, yes.
On Rumble, sorry, yeah. I think I had another question though. Well, the question is whether.
Thanks to the court of public opinion. I mean, he got reinstated fast due to the amount of outrage by people were able to voice in the court of public opinion that exposed YouTube for doing what they were doing. And I think a lot of people underestimate the court of public opinion, and I get criticism of, you think the court of public opinion is going to solve all these problems. I don't quite believe that, but I believe it's a powerful tool. Folks, they don't spend lots of time lying to you and obsessing over what you think if what you think does not matter. And that's why it matters. And so people made enough noise about it. Tim Pool, to his credit, brought attention to it. Of course, Jeremy at the Quartering brought attention to it. Our Geeks and Gamers and Ryan at RK Outpost and Sports Wars brought attention to it. And Allison Morrow brought attention to it. A bunch of other folks, too. Good Logic brought attention to it. And the aggregate social media outrage got him reinstated fast. And that relates to now I think he has said that he is going to be shifting more and more to Rumble because YouTube is not a safe place to be. YouTube is only a safe space if you have the right ideas. It's an unsafe space if you're a dissident. They've made that crystal clear now.
And even in fairness to whatever violation, like let's just say the last 2 strikes were arguable. Yeah, under American law, what Nick said was not a true threat. It was hyperbolic verbiage. It's a figure of speech which has taken on 2 meanings. The last one, like, it may not be illegal, but YouTube set up its rules. People are saying, no right to privacy in your address. Other people might say, well, if I file an ethics complaint, frivolous as it may be, if I authorize the lawyer to see my address, I don't authorize the internet to see my address. They may or may not misunderstand.
Yeah, your address is just not private. It's never been private. I don't know where people get the idea that their address is phone book, folks.
Once upon a time, we had the white pages where you could look up.
Yeah, that's public information. You do it for property tax purposes, for voter registration purposes, for utility payment purposes. There's no right to privacy in that information. There just isn't. I get it can annoy people or irritate people or whatnot. But there's no right to privacy in it. I mean, but I think it shows the power of court of public opinion because, and it was one of 3 major examples of that this week. Another one, just briefly, was the Florida Surgeon General exposed problems with the COVID vaccine. Twitter took it down on the grounds it was misinformation, public outrage. This was the Florida Surgeon General, the Florida health official, and were guilted into putting it back up. Probably with the looming threat of Musk's ownership coming in, probably also influencing that factor. But it relates to the one we covered last week. And this again shows the power of court of public opinion. We were the first major influencer to discuss the PayPal rules, that PayPal was trying to put in rules to basically weaponize financial services for the purposes of discriminating against those whose speech they didn't like. And we covered it. Then other influencers, Jack Posobiec, other conservative influencers started covering it. Then A wider range of people on social media started paying attention to it. Then that led to people starting to mass cancel their accounts. And within a week of us covering this story, PayPal has fully reversed and said, no, that was just a little accident.
We accidentally released a draft that we were circulating. It had no, by the way, which makes them total incompetent nincompoops. Maybe you don't want to let them have access to your bank account in the first place.
It was a trial balloon. It was a trial balloon to see what the pushback would be, and they were shocked at the scale and scope and speed of it.
Hold on. I put out. I think it's. I closed it. My tweet was, PayPal caused COVID. Go ahead, PayPal. It was a joke. It's good that people, people reacted. Whether or not they retracted because of that, or they would have just allowed it to slip through if nobody said anything. But Robert, before we mosey on over to the Rumbles, while we have everybody watching, did everybody see a little? It said sponsored video in this video, because the distraction for last week, I forgot to do a read for Field of Greens people, a sponsor that has the cojones to sponsor a show like Viva and Barnes, or Viva Solo when he goes and rants and raves about the universe. Field of Greens, USDA organic. It's not, what's the word? It's not an extract and it's not a supplement. It is desiccated fruits and vegetables, antioxidants, all this other stuff, made in America, USDA organic approved. Field of Greens, 1 spoonful is 1 serving of vegetable. I spent a half an hour on the phone with the MD behind the company to make sure I'm comfortable with it. I've been using it. I can't pretend I feel like 50.
So what is it younger. Like? Comes in a bottle?
Comes in like a little jug, and it looks like Quick, Nesquik for the children who remember what that looks like.
Yeah, I used to get the strawberry and the chocolate.
Yeah, well, this is a little better for you than that. 1 serving of vegetables each, and apparently, if you go put in promo code Viva, you get 15% off your first order and 10% off recurring orders.
Fieldofgreens.com.
Field of Greens. That's fieldofgreens.com, Robert. Field of Greens.
That's a good web name. So fieldofgreens.com, and then
promo code Viva. They'll put it in somewhere where they order it.
So yeah, look for the promo code Viva and get yourself some healthy veg.
I'll tell you this: it doesn't taste bad.
When I was a little kid, I wouldn't eat vegetables. That's how I pronounced it too, vegetables. But now it's about, I can only eat like steak, vegetables, and fruit. That's about it.
Yeah.
Other food I can't even really eat.
Apparently this year you're supposed to have 6 servings of vegetables a day. This is 1 serving. Raw, uncooked vegetables are, they have certain benefits that desiccated stuff, but this is still, it's good, not a supplement and not an extract. So, and it doesn't taste bad. It looks like you're drinking swamp water because it's literally green. It doesn't, it's literally green, but it's good. Fieldofgreens.com, promo code Viva. Before we go over to the Rumbles, did you already have Mike Davis on your show? If so, what was the date?
I was busy in the airports. He's this Wednesday.
Okay, awesome. And now, people, I'm going to put the link one more time. We're going to go over to the Rumbles, and we're going to end it here. People, go. Let's see you there. 3, 2, 1.